Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the Sojourn. My name is Dr. Stephanie Evans, the Chair of African American Studies, Africana Women's Studies, and History here at Clark Atlanta University, and I would like to welcome you all back to the W.E.B. Du Bois seminar series, a year-long sojourn into the writings and the life, the thinking, and the intellect, the activism of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, who was a faculty member here at CAU for 23 years. In the spring 2012, we kicked off in January with, of course, The Souls of Black Folk, and have covered race research, crime and health, literature and art, and this summer looked at autobiography. Today, we are discussing Africa, and I am extremely grateful to my knowledgeable colleagues for helping us unpack Du Bois and really get into his thinking on this very important topic. He wrote, "Africa during the 20th century is bound to be the scene of interesting and fateful human development." Du Bois obviously was a very thoughtful and mindful person, so that he chose Ghana as his final resting place speaks to the place of significance that Africa is in his understanding of the meaning of the world, not just in historical terms, but in terms of choosing one's identity, choosing one's political beliefs, spiritual beliefs, historical, cultural beliefs. It was a mindful choice. And these two works that we're studying today and seeing through the lens of our esteemed panel's areas of expertise will help us get there to that understanding of how and why he came to make that choice. Africa, Its Geography, People, and Products, Its Place in Modern History was written in 1930. And The World and Africa, an Inquiry into the Part which Africa has played in world history in 1946. The first text is actually broken down into two parts. One, the physical geography of Africa, in which he breaks the continent into 9 geographic regions. And this, again, speaks to the true interdisciplinarity of Dr. Du Bois, because he looks at every topic from that topic's discipline's perspective. So when he's looking at geography, he studies the terrain, the square miles, the climate, the people, the culture, the impact of natural environment on social factors, from labor to education. So if he's looking at the geography of Africa, he really studies it from the standpoint of a geography scholar. He also talks about the political geography of Africa and anti-colonialism and freedom. Particularly, he says there's a partially independent Africa. And so when he's writing in 1930, we're not to the point of 1957 where we've got African independence, but he understands it's on the way and helps us understand the breaking up of Africa that started in the 1880s. Well, not started in the 1880s, really started in the 1400s, but in the 1880s, the European partitioning of Africa in the Belgian Conference of 1884. The splitting up, the breaking up, the tearing apart politically of Africa. And so he looks at Egypt. Yes, Egypt is in Africa, he assures us. The Union of South Africa, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Gold Coast, Sudan, Nyasaland, which is now Malawi, Zanzibar, where he finds Negroid Arabians, Nigeria, Belgian Africa, and so on. The second text, The World and Africa, an Inquiry into the Part which Africa has played in the world, is also broken up into two texts. The first is The World and Africa. The second is a series of writings compiled from 1955 to 1961. Here we have Du Bois building on the geographic and the political part of Africa by studying the centrality of Africa in world history. And he takes us through, or begins the book with the collapse of Europe, because this is right after World War II. So he says, how did we get here? What are the origins of Europe's falling apart? The white masters of the world, where he weighs the costs of white supremacy. The rape of Africa, where he talks about products of Africa and lists the revolts. Peopling Africa, and here instead of 9 geographic regions, he takes us to 5 geographic areas. So he is evolving in his thought about how to understand Africa geographically, and he ends with a poem by Langston Hughes saying, Langston Hughes, the Negro speaks of rivers, we understand rivers. And he takes us through Egypt, through Ethiopia, the land of burnt faces, classic Du Bois talking about Atlantis and Andromeda, in really getting us to engage Africa with Greek and Roman culture, and ends with the message, which is essentially about not only political democracy but human democracy, and that is what Africa, at least in this iteration, means to him. So we're going to benefit extremely from not only reading Du Bois, but having others read Du Bois through their areas of expertise. So whether you are looking at the world in terms of multiculturalism, Pan-Africanism, Afrocentrism, global humanism, we must come back to the origins, which is Africa. Today, helping us with this discussion is Kathy Oluwajiemi, Dr. Thomas Scott, Dr. Azaria Mbuguni, Dr. Henry Ilonge, and Dr. Sam Livingston. Kathy Oluwajiemi majored in Pan-African Studies at the University of Louisville, where she received her bachelor's and master's degree in 2002 and 2004, respectively. She participated in 2 study abroad programs to Belize and Trinidad and Tobago, and learned about Afro-Caribbean history and culture. Currently a doctoral candidate in Clark Atlanta University's AWH program with a focus on African American studies. She is completing a dissertation, The Impact of Late Capitalism on Nigerian Economy and Culture. She's also the editor-in-chief of the DA of the Doctoral Newsletter here at Clark Atlanta. Dr. Thomas Scott, an associate professor of religion, has been with the Department of Religion at Clark Atlanta University since 1995. He teaches biblical heritage, Egyptian hieroglyphs, contemporary religious thought, and poetry as theology. His main areas of interest include ancient Africa and the development of biblical traditions within the context of the New Testament and Christian origins, contemporary metaphysical thought, particularly as reflected in the Seth material, so-called. Dr. Scott is one of the few scholars in the country with the proficiency and expertise in hieroglyphics outside of Egyptology as a discrete discipline. He received his THD, Doctorate of Theology, in New Testament and Christian Origins from Harvard Divinity School, having successfully defended with honors his doctoral thesis, Egyptian Elements in Hermetic Literature. And I won't read the full biographies, they are online. Please visit us at www.cau.edu. Dr. Catherine Phillips-Lewis from the Spelman History Department was scheduled to be here, but she had a conflict and so graced us with the recommendation of Dr. Azaria Mbuguni, also from Spelman College, her esteemed colleague from Tanzania, just learned. PhD from Howard University in 2000. He earned his PhD from Howard University in 2006. His dissertation looked at Tanzania's role in the liberation struggle in southern Africa. He joined the College of Worcester, Ohio as a visiting professor after graduating from Howard, where he worked before joining Spelman College in the fall of 2007. Since joining Spelman College, his academic work has focused on the African diaspora in the Indian Ocean and anti-apartheid campaigns carried out by the Pan-African Congress of South Africa. Dr. Henry Alonge, here in public administration, is currently associate professor with tenure teaching in the graduate program in the Department of Public Administration. Dr. Alonge earned his doctorate in the field of public administration from the Nelson Rockefeller Graduate School of Public Affairs at State University of New York, Albany. He also holds 2 master's degrees in international affairs and political science from Ohio University, Athens, Ohio, and an undergraduate degree in African history from the University of Yaoundé, Cameroon. And finally, Dr. Sam Livingston, an associate professor with African American Studies program at Morehouse College, where he teaches in African American history, Africana Studies methodology, and on the Black aesthetic of hip hop in the 1960s. After graduating from the University of South Carolina with a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology, he pursued his true passion, the Africa-centered study of history and culture, received his master's and doctoral degrees from Temple University in African American Studies in 1998, focusing on Africa's resistance movements and their use of oral traditions. He combined these areas in his doctoral dissertation, which observed the philosophical influence of the Nation of Islam on hip-hop culture. His approach to Black culture observes it as the creation of African agency and resistance to domination. As you can see, we are in for an outstanding dialogue, and again, I'm grateful to my colleagues. I will say that Africa is, I'm thinking about Arrested Development here, right? Africa is inside me. And I hope this does not come off as flippant, as I was just observing Michael Jackson's birthday, of course I had to look at Remember the Time, the video. And it was so striking that even in popular culture, something that is so dear to my heart, something that as our youth look at almost unthinkingly, you can see Africa everywhere. The way that Du Bois breaks this down, particularly those who would try to argue that Egypt is not a part of Africa. We can see it in our popular culture, that Africa is part of all of us in our culture, even in the kind of seemingly most banal type of ways. So I'm extremely excited to have this discussion to talk about Africa, its history, its culture, and its legacy. Thank you.